My name is Richard Peters. I'm a professional wildlife photographer based in the UK and Nikon ambassador, and I'm currently stuck in my house like the rest of the world. I've always had kind of an interest in the natural world, and so anytime I would go kind of anywhere that wasn't at home and somewhere new, I love travelling, I love the natural world, so going anywhere was always quite inspiring for me. I would say probably two trips really stand out. I went to Yellowstone National Park in America in 2010, I think it was 2010, 2011. It was unlike anywhere else I'd ever been before. You know, it was under 7 foot of snow. It was just absolutely incredible and I loved it. So that was a big inspiration for me, just being in a completely new environment. And then also, of course, I went to Africa in, I think, 2013 for the first time. And again, like nothing else I'd ever experienced before. And the amount of animals there, they're just everywhere. And so for someone who's interested in photography and in animals and wildlife and nature, being somewhere with that sheer volume of subjects was just awe-inspiring. And that was it. I was hooked from that, really hooked from that moment on. So when I'm out, wherever it may be, Africa especially, if I find myself in a situation where I know all the elements are going to come together and there's a good picture to be taken, it's a feeling that's hard to describe. It sounds weird, but there's like a tingle. You just know that there's a good picture about to happen, and you recognise that the animal's in the right place, it's doing what you want it to do, the light is the way you want it to be, and it's like a buzz, it's like a high, and it's that kind of feeling that is what I strive to get. And you don't get it all the time, and I think that's a good thing, because if you got it all the time, it would take away from that moment and that feeling. So for me, it's trying to get those situations, and they don't come along every day, they don't come along every trip sometimes, but when you get them, it's just such a high, and that's what spurs you on, and that's what makes you carry on shooting, despite the 99% of the rest of the time where you take a load of rubbish photos. I absolutely love travelling the world. It's one of my favourite things. It's a passion. I love going to Africa. I love taking people to Africa. I love seeing, you know, everything that's out there in the world. But some of my best pictures have been taken at home, and some of my most successful pictures have been taken at home. And so as much as I would love to take you all out on safari with me, it's so important to also express how being at home can produce interesting photos. In fact, you could argue, and I often say, the more common the subject, the more memorable a good photo of it will be. There are so many pictures of lions out there that are good, like amazing photos of lions, but there's so many of them that taking one that stands out is really, really difficult. Whereas a picture of a slug, or a rat, or a snail, or a pigeon, if you get a good photo of one of those, people are going to remember it because they don't see good photos of those subjects all the time. And the other advantage to working from home is you can do it whenever you can take advantage of the light, of the weather, of your free time. You can't just jump on a plane and go to the other side of the world for the weekend because you've got a couple of hours spare. If you're doing photography in the garden and you've got a project in the garden, you can go out there whenever you've got spare time. And the more time you spend at a location and with a subject, the better those results will be. And that's why I think shooting at home is something that's so important. And I've said to people before, you know, just because I go to Africa, it doesn't mean that's why I take good photos. I take them because I recognise a good shot of any subject. And I really wanted to put that into context and put kind of, we say in the UK, put your money where your mouth is. And so I wanted to prove that you could do this type of thing at home on limited resources, on limited time, because you're home. And like I said before, you can spend as much time there as you need to. The fun part about taking photos in your garden and spending a lot of time there is you get photos you didn't expect to take. Like, for example, I became a bit of a pet photographer because my neighbours' cats would come through the garden a lot, and I was using a motion sensor at one point, so I ended up with tons of photos of cats. At one point I had a photo of a dog, and I don't even know any neighbours with a dog, so I don't know where that came from, but it came through the back, through the fence, I think. And you know, just technical things as well. There were times where you know, I once spent an hour trying to troubleshoot a camera trap that wouldn't fire. I replaced all the leads, I went upstairs to Google things and looked things up online, and came back downstairs and tried this and tried that. Nothing would work, and I was getting really annoyed. It was already dark, really frustrated, and then it took an hour for me to realise that there were no batteries in the camera trap, and that's why it wouldn't fire. Lockdown, you know, it's a challenging time for everybody. I think the outcome, hopefully, from this entire situation is people will recognise that the planet does need help. You know, I think the wildlife is enjoying the break. The planet as a whole is enjoying the break. You know, no flights, less pollution, that kind of thing. There's stories from all over the world about how the pollution has dropped so much and the positive impacts that's having. And I really hope that people will now sit up and take notice of that and realise that we are damaging the planet, and the less we do to kind of speed that up, the better, really. So I hope that when we go back to normal, we don't go back to the old normal. I hope there's a new normal, maybe a middle ground where people pay a bit more attention to what they're doing to help the environment. That's what we can really hope for. And I think from the things I've seen people say online and the news reports, I think people finally may be starting to get the fact that we were damaging the planet, and now maybe something will change as a result of what's going on right now.